Today on Locked On Red Wings, what is the team's biggest positional needs post-trade deadline?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And Scotty and I today are going to... Scotty's ridiculous. He just typed something in our little private chat here. The big question today, post-trade deadline.
There you go.
And I mean, not even, it's obviously emphasized and exaggerated because of the deadline, but I feel like everything, at least on my list, Scotty, were still needs regardless. But what is this team's biggest positional needs to make them competitive? And, you know, when writing this list and like basically a wish list, so to speak, for what I hope the Red Wings acquire through trade, draft, prospects, free agency, whatever you want to call it. I'm realizing that there's a lot of things I want this team to get because there's a lot that they need. And I mean, Scotty, when it comes to biggest positional needs, what's your number one, so to speak?
Well, I think there's a lot of directions you can go with number one, but I do think that it's very important to have this conversation right now. So I'm glad we're doing it because I think that, again, kind of just piggybacking off of our discussion yesterday, like there's a lot of varying opinions on what the phrase we used on yesterday's episode, core of this team, is going forward. And no matter how big or small you think that circle is and how big or small you think that core is, this team undeniably has a lot to add. And I think that you just get a much clearer picture after the trade deadline every year. I think all 32 teams get a much clearer picture of what they need and what their holes are post-trade deadline every year. So I think this is always just a fascinating conversation to have. I think I almost don't even want to start with it because it's just the most painfully obvious one, you know? Like, I don't even know if I want to say because it just feels like a really easy answer, but you have to get a second goalie. Whether it is a like top end, you just want to like break the bank or use a ton of assets and get some like really top end goalie, and then you just have a crazy good tandem because Husso is of equal level or like just even slightly worse than whoever you're bringing in, or whether it's we're good with Husso being kind of the 1A, we need to find just a legitimate solid NHL level 1B. That is Yzerman's job to assess all of the capital and assets that he has and determine what the best route or the best strategy is as far as that goes going forward. But at the end of the day, undeniably, I think it's the most painfully obvious one. This team desperately needs a second goalie. I don't even want to use the word backup necessarily because, roles again, but desperately need a second goalie on this team.
Well, and like, let's dive into what's available. I don't think Magnus Hellberg or Alex Nedeljkovic are the answer as the backup goaltender. And not to, I don't want to pile on them because Magnus Hellberg has been serviceable in his time here in Detroit, but it's very clear that I don't think he's the answer. But there is a lot of goalies that are going to hit free agency as unrestricted free agents this year. And, one of those guys that I think would be top of the list for Red Wings as far as targets. Now, here's the question is, are you targeting, because you have Sebastian Cossa in the system. Are you targeting somebody to have long-term or short-term and just serve as a backup to Husso? Because if it's backup, that opens the door to way more options. But if you're looking to somebody to take over as the starter, I guess if you're Yzerman, you always want whatever goal you decide sign to compete for the starting job. But, I mean, there's plenty of mid-30s goalies you can get out there that have had good seasons, and you just hope that they carry that over with Husso carrying the bulk of the workload. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, exactly, and I think I did a very poor job of articulating it, so that's my bad. But that's kind of the what I was trying to say at the beginning of my dialogue. There was just that I think that there's a lot of different directions you can go with filling that role, and you can, again, you can try and go big and just have that big goalie tandem, or you can kind of say Huso's the guy, and we're just going to get serviceable, solid backups until Kosa is ready. And I think, for me personally, I think you should. I don't want to put all of my cookies in the Kosa jar, and that's not a disrespect of Kosa specifically at all, which I know a lot of people in this fan base have already kind of been on the wagon of, that he's whatever. He's rather controversial already and is literally in Toledo. But I think that it's just, for me, I don't like putting. I've been through this rebuild. I've been through the Tigers rebuild. I'm not somebody who's just going to put 100% faith into every single prospect we get. Like, not all of them will turn out. That's just objective. So if you have the ability to improve long term, I think you do. And especially because this might even be more of a different conversation if Kosa was like putting up the numbers he's been putting up lately in Toledo, in Grand Rapids. But he's not. And so you're still presumably years away from Kosa being that solid NHL caliber goalie. And I don't think you should just play like the one and done backup game for whatever, 2, 3, 4 years. Goalies are weird. They take a long time to develop sometimes. I don't know. I would be much more comfortable with a longer term option, as to not put all the pressure in the world on Kosa to be like a savior of the pipes.
Well, let's look at those options, those longer term options you could possibly have. So if that's the case, then you want somebody who's a free agent, but on the right side of 30. That really limits your options, Scotty. But there are a couple of guys, Tristan Jarry of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
He's 28 years old. He's got 32 games played this year. He's got a .916 save percentage. The thing here is, obviously, being on that side of 30, he's going to want a longer term contract, and he's already making $3.5 million. He's going to be looking for a pay raise. Are you willing to commit that much cap, especially when you take into account Ville Husso, to paying a guy like that? You can make the similar argument for Jonas Corpusalo, Lord above, of the LA Kings. He's 29 years oold, 29 games played, 912 save percentage, but he only makes $1.3 million. So you can get him a little bit cheaper, probably, I would assume. But I disagree with you a little bit here, Scotty, because I don't want to wrap a lot, because any young goalie you're going to want to get that's playing well, like those two guys I just named, are going to be commanding more of a cap hit. And I think you do kind of just, right now, you're not waiting for, you are kind of waiting for Kosa to get ready, and you're hoping that he works out, because goalies cost a lot of money on the free agent market. And if you don't make your own goalie, you're going to have a Sergei Bobrovsky situation. Maybe that's an extreme, but you don't want to pay $10 million for a goaltender just to have them flake out in year 2 of the contract because they're not performing. So I almost think you do continue to go to a Band-Aid type goalie. I mean, Simon Varlamov has .914 save percentage. He's 35. Granted, he's playing on the Islanders.
You can take you can. It's the front office's job to find the best available option for the least amount of money, right? Like that's how you win in a salary cap sport. So I do think that I'm with you. I'm not asking them to go out there and spend, $6 mil, $7 mil on a second goalie where we already are confident in one of them. Like I'm not necessarily asking for that. I'm just saying, if they go out and they find someone that, I don't know, I guess could like potentially kind of steamroll into, okay, we actually really like this guy. Maybe we can give him a 2-year extension, or after his first year, that's only a 1-year kind of prove it thing. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want us to just hate our backup goalie for the next 4 years. And I don't want it to just be 4 different goalies each of the next 4 years on 1-year deals, and everybody just can't stand all of them. You know what I mean? I want to find that balance, I guess.
I get it, man. Hey, also another shout out, Alex Stalock. He's 35 with the Chicago Blackhawks, .921 save percentage on a league minimum contract.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To have a .921 save percentage in 16 games played with that hockey team at that age, you got to be doing something right.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, goaltending, I'm right with you. That was my number one need as well. But when we come back, we'll continue the conversation because we got a lot more to get to, and we have one segment to do it because we got a game preview in segment 3. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. It's the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time to download the FanDuel app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a no-chance first bet with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockdown. That's FanDuel.com/lockdown to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Scotty, segment 2, Lockdown Rogues podcast. We spent a little bit too much time on goaltending there. That's my bad. I got wrapped up in the conversation.
Well, no, I mean, like I said at the start, I mean, I think it is the most glaring thing, and we have 20 more minutes to talk about other stuff.
The other big thing I think the Red Wings do need is a top 6 center, and I hate saying that because I know you just signed Andrew Kopp and you have Dylan Larkin, and I want to give. I want to give Andrew Kopp like the time to become the bona fide number 2 center, but I don't know, man. Maybe I should rephrase this as say not a top 6 center, but a bona fide number 1 center. And that's not a slight against Dylan Larkin, as he is a well-rounded number 1 center on this team. But I mean, I think I need maybe what I'm saying is not a top 6 center. Maybe what I'm not saying is a center at all, but I feel like this team just needs that guy, the guy, and that's probably what I'm really trying to get at is I feel like this team does genuinely need the guy, so to speak, and they don't have it. And this is, I think, the hardest position to fill of their needs because that guy isn't on the free agent market. That guy, I don't know if he's in their system. I don't know if Marco Kasper is going to be that guy. And it's way too early to tell with Carter Mazer or Amadeus Lombardi if they're going to be the guy to score 40-plus goals. But they need it. So what's your option left, man? Like trade? That's hard to make happen.
It is hard to make happen. You're absolutely right. I think that that will be a conversation within this fan base pretty much every day until it happens. And personally, and I've said this before on the show, and I'll continue to reiterate, we just need a guy that you can consistently rely on to put the puck in the back of the net. And more times than not, that's absolutely some top-end talent that ends up being whatever, 90, 100-point scorer. But I'm like the specifics of like, oh, this team needs like a over a point a game, like consistent over a point a game player. I'm not even as worried about it. It's just it really is for me just like specifically goal scoring right now. Like they desperately need someone who on a night-to-night basis you can rely on that's going to go out there and put up a 40-goal season and is going to give you a goal at like every other game and is someone who we're just throwing pucks on net. We can't get the offense going. We're going to put the puck on this dude's stick. Like that's something that I love Dylan Larkin. I love the extension. He's the captain. I'm in full support of keeping him on board. I think he's vital to this team's future. I think he's part of the core. But he's not 40, 50 goals in a season. Like that's just not how he plays the game of hockey. And he'll be around a point a game and he'll be super valuable. But this team needs a bona fide goal scorer more than maybe anything else if you're talking big picture to get them over the hump and kind of take them to the next level of competitiveness.
Yeah. And this is a position where unless you're signing a guy to a short-term deal a la David Perron, who just you bring in to put puck in the back of the net, and David Perron's done it at a decent clip. I think he's probably about on pace for where he's supposed to be, 16, 17 goals right now.
Yeah.
That's right around where he normally is. I mean, I'm just looking at the free agent class right now, which is why I sound so exasperated. Your top goal scorer right now this season that's a pending UFA is Patrice Bergeron, who, if he retires, well, I mean, if he doesn't retire, rather, is not leaving Boston. There's no
Right.
way in hell, especially after he decides he's not going to retire, comes back, and this is the impact he has. He's going to win the Selke again. The guy's a
Right.
freak. He's ageless. I don't understand how he does that at 37. After that, it's Max Domi with 19 goals and 62 games played. So he's got a nice little year of himself as he continues to kind of like get better year after year. Cap hit a $3 million this year, so he's going to look to make a little bit more than that. He's 28 years old, so he's on the right side of 30. So, like, I could see if anyone on the free agent market, you take a run at him or Michael Bunting, who's a UFA.
That would be a full circle moment.
That would be a full circle moment.
How old is he? No,
He's 27. Yeah, 27, 42 points, 63 games played, 19 goals, but he's playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, so it's hard to tell. And plus, he plays left wing, and the Red Wings are stacked on the left wing.
Yep.
So, but Max Domi can play center. He can play left wing, so I think he might be a good addition if you want him to play center. Bottom six, maybe middle six. If you decide Andrew Kopp just ain't it. If he comes back next season and it's bad again, move him to wing, move him down the lineup. I know you pay him $5 million. You got to swallow those pills sometimes. But I mean, that's it. As from as free agent goes. I mean, you kind of, when it comes to getting a goal scorer, these guys aren't it, but it's something. And when it comes to getting a goal scorer, you kind of have to hit the trade market.
Yeah, which again kind of just goes back to the point we kind of talked about yesterday with the big picture stuff involving the trade deadline and after getting all those assets, what to do with them. That's why you get a ton of draft capital, so you can have and the cap space of getting rid of players that you're paying. I mean that's and not re-signing players, etc. Like you're going to have the flexibility available to you to go out and make a big move like that and bring somebody in. And I'm not saying that this offseason is gonna lead to the Wings getting some elite level goal scorer in the trade market necessarily, but I mean that's, in my eyes, that's why you do stuff like this. You don't just do that to just draft players every single year, like you or to draft 5 players in the first 40 picks every single year. You know what I mean? Like I think you do that so you can have the flexibility to do whatever you want with them, whether it is take players or acquire new talent. So
yeah, absolutely. Next guy, or what is your next one, Scotty? Is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Swiss cheesy. There's a lot of holes, but I think that the blue line is like pretty blatant as far as something that needs to be addressed. Now, I don't know if you want to get like super specific or more big picture, but if we're just talking about the foreseeable future of this blue line, okay, Moritz Seider and Jake Wallman, is that it? Immediate future. Like obviously you just
Simon
signed
Edvinsson.
you just extended Mata for he's going to be on the team next year. You have that going for you. Great.
Sherratt's going to be here for the foreseeable future.
Right. Sherratt is, but I mean I would imagine that most fans would agree at the first sign, if someone is willing to take on Ben Sherratt, I would imagine that for any decent value, I'd imagine that that's something the Red Wings would entertain. Mata's probably in a similar boat. That's more of a raise the floor than it is raise the ceiling kind of extension, right?
Yeah.
I think like everywhere. And if we're talking about the defenseman kind of waiting in the wing, like you have Johansson, who we've talked about, and obviously you have Edvinsson, who's someone that everybody is looking forward to presumably seeing next season. But I think it's
I think your left side of your defense is set. I think it's the right side of your defense.
I agree that
help.
it's right side.
Thankfully, right side of the defense, I think, has quite a bit of options in the free agent market. Nothing that's going to be like immediately make this team a Stanley Cup contender, but will have improved the team by consequence of just signing them. I mean, I think the number one guy right now that you could be looking at, and I talk about signing guys with youth. But this kind of goes back against it. But Dmitry Orlov, man. Dmitry Orlov, he's a left-handed defenseman, so I had to check myself on that one. But he's a guy who has despite being 31, his standard of play has persisted the entire time. If you want to go right-handed, Damon Severson of the New Jersey Devils, making $4 million right now, so you're going to have to give him quite a pay raise, I assume. But he's 28 years old, right-handed defenseman, 21 games played, or
Hell of a year.
21 points in 61 games played. Yeah. There are options out there for right D-men. If you want to get grit on that D-line, Matt Dumba, I mean, he's out there too with the Minnesota Wild. He's 28 years old. $6 million right now is his
Great
paycheck,
hockey
though.
player, going to cost you a pretty penny, but
Yeah.
definitely gives you. And I guess if you want to, I don't know if you want to keep talking about the defense, we can. But I mean, the next thing on my list was physicality. Like I don't care what position you play. You can,
let me go to a quick break because that was on my list too. And
you could be the seventh D man for all I care. We need somebody who's going to push some people around, though.
Got to take a quick break and talk to you guys today about Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. It's made with 100% real chocolate. There's just 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And they have delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. If you're looking to get fit, but don't want to have any of those, there's so many disgusting, chalky, chewy protein bars out there. Well, if you're eating Built Bar, you don't got to worry about that because they make getting healthy fun. They make getting healthy tasty. And nowadays, Scotty, you can go far beyond Built.com to acquire some Built Bars because they're everywhere inside Walmart and Sam's Club.
4-bar box, 13-bar box. They're everywhere. Or still Built.com.
Always can go to Built.com. You can get a cookies and cream and double chocolate or coconut puffs at
You tried the
Walmart.
churro yet? Huh?
I have not. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry.
Dude. No, it's cool, dude.
He's judging me hardcore right now. You can try the batter brownie or brownie batter, rather, and churro at Sam's Club if you grab a box there. And like Scotty said, you can always go to Built.com. Look at you. You scared me. You knocked my hat off a little bit. It was off center because of the way you yelled at me.
You scare me every day when I learn that you haven't tried a churro Built Bar yet.
And you scare me every single day when
Don't
you
finish that sentence.
pop your face into this
there it is.
thing for a podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, Built Bars, guys. They're great. You won't regret it. Get swole. Segment 3. Locked On Red Wings podcast. We have fun here. So yeah, physicality, man. You wanted to talk about that. I agree with you. Go ahead and lead the way.
Yeah, everyone who's listened to the show for a while is aware that my favorite wing was Giovanni Smith, but I'm not even asking for a dude that's going to go out there and get in a lot of fights. I'm not. It's a style of play thing that we are significantly lacking. It's not, some people make a direct correlation between like, oh, we're getting bullied on the ice. We need someone that can fight. Those aren't the same thing. There are plenty of dudes that fight and don't like play that like bully puck thing. You know what I mean? So I think that those are two very different things. And the need for like the enforcer fighter is becoming smaller and smaller. And if you get someone like that also is a physical presence, then it's a win-win and great. But more than anything, this team, every single time this year that they have gone up against a team that just goes out there and hits them and punches them in the mouth and is super physical, they get absolutely destroyed. And that, I don't know if you've watched a playoff hockey game before, but you are not going to survive without being able to at least match some physicality. Like, you are going to get pummeled. So that's another thing. Like, in the regular season, if you can get over the hump without that and you can be, like the 16 seed in the postseason without it, then great. But the second the puck drops in the postseason, you're going to find yourself back in the same situation that we've seen. I mean, we saw it against Minnesota this year. We saw it against Ottawa, obviously, very recently. Anytime we're put in that situation, it's bad news very quickly.
Yeah, and it's just so hard making these conversations because there's so many needs that this team has, and it's so hard to address all those. And I doubt they'll address every single one of them in one offseason. It's wishful thinking on our parts for sure, because that's just not how rebuilds go. You don't fill your roster out with free agents. And really, you're waiting on your prospects. I don't know. I know Yzerman's tactic is to fill the team with size. Like that was his thing in Tampa Bay. That's just clearly been his thing here in Detroit. Outside of Lucas Raymond, I think all of his first round draft picks have been 6 foot or over. And so it's just one of those things where he's adding size because size makes it tougher to play against you. But not every player with size is going to have like that physical element. And the Red Wings desperately need that guy who will. I don't need them to go out there and lay big hits. I don't need them to go out there, like you said, and get a ton of penalties and get in a ton of fights. I need this player to come in and stand up for their teammates and just be tough to play against. I mean, you look at, Moritz Seider, I think, is
I
a
just
perfect
don't want to get
example.
pushed around.
Yeah,
I don't need to be the team that is doing the pushing around even. I just don't want to be pushed around.
So I think Seider is a perfect example of a guy who's not like, obviously he has some pretty big hits last year, but it's kind of toned it down this year. But I think he's a perfect example of a guy who is tough to play against without being like an enforcer type. And they need more guys like that. Hell, where would we be if we had 3 or 4 more Siders? But that's asking a lot. But I'm just talking about from the like you said, that aspect of not being pushed around. Guys who are tough to play against and don't take crap. There have been so many times this season where you'll see one of the Red Wings players get mugged and there's just like so little response. Just think back to the Ottawa series. How many runs did Jake Wallman take? And nobody stood up to Brady Tkachuk. And he was jawing at the bench. So it's just, this team needs somebody who's not going to take crap. And so when you break it down, Scotty, really what this team needs is a backup goalie, a pure goal scorer, at least one more top 4 D-man, and a bruiser. That's a lot to ask.
It's feasible.
It really helps going back to our big picture conversation yesterday. It really reemphasizes where this team was at and that we were a little bit high at the time. Like we were high on how games were going. Oh my God, I'm struggling to get the words out right now. We were just high on how the games were going for the Detroit Red Wings at the time. And the holes are very clear. And they were clear the entire season. We knew there were holes, but we were just riding high.
For sure. And directly, I know we want to talk about the Hawks game a little bit here at the end, but
do we?
I think that if you can get 2 of those things, excluding the goalie because it doesn't really factor into it, I think your 5-on-5 play will substantially improve. Yeah. So like if you eliminate goalie, that leaves you with 3 things, right? If you can just knock out 2 of those 3 and not even bringing in like elite talent to fill those in, just get like legitimate, solid, like NHL players and pay a little bit of money to get them, I really think that you could see the 5-on-5 play improve a lot. And we already saw the special teams improve a lot this year. If they take another step forward, another year under the system, kind of rejuvenate the 5-on-5, I still am very much of the belief of the current timeline within this organization. But it is going to have to take some additions this offseason. Like you're not going to be able to roll out the same product next year and expect different results.
I agree. All right, Scotty, time to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks matchup taking place at Little Caesars Arena, I think.
No, it is. Yep.
It is. Okay. For some reason, whenever I say that, there's like that itch in the back of my head. I was like, are you wrong? Even though I check before I come on here, I'm just like, wait, what if I was wrong? Because they lost that overtime game against Chicago early in the season, Western Conference teams. This is the second of 2 matchups between the 2 teams. We talked about early in the season that was a game you have no excuse losing. It's even more so a game you have no excuse losing because of the fact, Scotty, the Net only are the 8th in the Central Division, but 3 of their top 4 point getters are gone. Max Domi, who we were just talking about, 49 points in 60 games played, gone. Traded to Dallas. Patrick Kane, 45 points in 54 games played, gone. Traded to the New York Rangers. Jonathan Toews, 28 points in 46 games played. That's their 4th most point getter, 28 points in 46 games played. Gone. Don't know if he's going to return. He has long COVID. So the leading point scorer on their team right now at a minus 21 on the season is Seth Jones, 31 points in 53 games played. There's absolutely no excuse to lose this hockey game.
There isn't. You're absolutely right.
I mean, as far as analysis goes, I mean, they're one of the worst teams in Corsi 4, expected goal for percentage at 5
You're
on 5.
better than them in everything.
This is a team that is deliberately trying to get Connor Bedard. You cannot.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care how down and out you are after the trade deadline. I don't care that's a 6-game losing streak. This team, there's no excuse to lose this hockey game. And I don't
even post trade deadline and post the lumps that you have taken over the last week. You are still comfortably, objectively better than this hockey team, and should 100% win this one.
The only thing that this team has going for them right now is Alex Stalock in net. He's got a .921 save percentage in 16 games played,
which is big for them. Well, going into the season, goalie was a huge question mark.
I mean, it's still a huge question mark. Peter Mrazek with an .891 save percentage,
right?
So
I mean, getting some decent goalie play by anyone was is a plus for them currently. But yeah, no, this is. You should win. I'll be taking the over Hugh Suter 0.5 goals scored revenge game. This is not betting advice. I'm not an expert. Don't yell at me, okay? But I'll be taking Pew Suter one-time goal score.
Let's take a look real quick at see if I can't find it on here if they haven't posted yet. They do. So the over-under is set at 6.5. I'm hitting the over hardcore. I don't care how few goals the Red Wings have scored the last few games. Then again, actually, that does make it a case for the under. They don't have any goal scorers. Red Wings haven't been scoring goals. Maybe the under is the play here.
Life's too short to take the under, baby. Smash the over. Let's ride.
It's getting plus odds, so they're not expecting the over. I'm taking the under in this one. I am.
I'll take the over with plus money then, yeah.
All right, cool. And the money line, Chicago with plus odds, Detroit with minus odds, minus 225, plus 184. I would take Detroit on that one.
For sure.
I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'd probably be taking the Blackhawks, to be honest, because
I'm just not betting on this hockey game.
True. If you're a betting man, you're not betting on this game. But if you were forced to bet in this game,
because you're either betting on the Blackhawks to win so that you can get plus money, or you're not betting on them. Yeah. So I would imagine that's just not going to be a very bet on game.
Yeah. And then
Pew Suter, anytime goal scorer. Book it.
Although the Red Wings are plus 110 odds to finish the game at minus 1.5. So they do expect the Red Wings to win, but not by more than 2 goals. Not by more than 1 goal, technically.
I'll take the spread, the Wings covering 1.5.
I would too. If you had to bet this game.
I'm still taking Pew Suter anytime goal scorer.
Love it. I love it. All right, Scotty. Any final thoughts?
We ball.
We'll be back tomorrow with a game recap. Hallelujah. Red Wings hockey is back after 2 days off. We'll see if I'm saying hallelujah in the game recap, though. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.